Does retatrutide increase constipation? Well, it's a great question, and in this video what we're going to talk about is how GLP-1s, retatrutide, tirzepatide, how they delay gastric emptying, what you can do about it if you are on some of these peptide structures, and we're going to talk to you about the digestive system is not just a conveyor belt, but it actually is controlled by the brain. So what you'll learn at the end of this is how to properly prepare yourself, how to get your digestive system moving, why detoxification is such a central part of an overall healthy weight loss strategy and body composition changes. And we'll also talk to you about some of the risks and benefits when it comes to retatrutide. Once again, this peptide is not FDA approved yet. It's very close. I'll be analyzing some of the studies. This is not medical advice. It is just me simply sharing with you some of the things I've learned to hopefully allow you to achieve optimal health and to explore new possibilities when it comes to your longevity. I'm Regan Archibald, founder of Ageless Future. We've got a team of medical experts who can help you identify where your threats are by getting the right blood labs ran. Just go to agelessfuture.com and my team will help you there. Okay, so let's jump in. So retatrutide, does it cause constipation? Well, anytime you take a GLP-1, it's well defined that your gastric emptying slows down. Now, this can be a life-changing experience for people who have loose stools all the time. You eat something, you need to know where the nearest bathroom is. We've had patients who've been on some of these GLP-1s, and what they found is that they can actually absorb the nutrients from the food. And then their nutrient sensing as it increases, because they're now able to get that fermentation, the bacteria get these short chain fatty acids that occur that doesn't otherwise if you've got loose stools. But the risk is it can slow things down even more, and some of them, the pendulum swings the other way and they end up with constipation. So any good medical provider, when you go in, my team and I were trained in functional medicine, so we won't want to look at the health of your gut. A stool test is, I know it sounds not very fun, but we send a kit to you from the lab. We use Great Plains, Genova labs, and do a comprehensive stool test so we can see how well your pancreatic enzymes are working. Are you breaking down carbohydrates and fats? Do you have any issues with breaking down hormones through the beta-glucuronidase pathway? How is your inflammatory markers like your eosinophil X, your SIGA? We'll also look at how well your body is making the diversity of the bacteria, probably one of the most important things. Do you have enough short chain fatty acids? All those things are looked at in the stool. And so part of an overall complete body change is getting the right testing. And so constipation in the studies, so there's two studies I'm going to reference. This first one is where this was conducted in 2025, and they looked at constipation occurrence in the retatrutide treated subjects overall versus placebo. They looked at constipation on 4 milligrams of retatrutide per week, and then they looked at 8 milligrams per week and 12 milligrams. And what they found versus placebo is it was pretty even across the dosing, and that's good news. But they found that about 6 to 12% of people using retatrutide ended up with constipation. Once again, you're delaying some of the motility and movement in the stomach and the whole gastric system. And so 6 to 12% versus 1 to 3% in placebo. It is consistent with the higher dose. There is a little greater risk, but the nausea seemed to be the number one risk profile as the dosing increased. And so the highest dose, 12 milligrams per week, which is a crazy high amount, that's where they also had the highest levels of side effects. Some of the side effects that participants noticed were the nausea and constipation and GI related. So what does this mean to you? So this is not yet an FDA-approved medication, but what you'll notice is that if you can prepare your body anytime you're losing weight, and I look at retatrutide, I don't know that it is something that you want to classify as just a weight loss molecule. Tirzepatide, we've seen phenomenal things outside of weight loss when it comes to blood sugar stability. You'll also see some of the trials on osteoarthritis. Very interesting on how the GLP-1s also protect the brain. But retatrutide, because it's a triple agonist, it's got glucagon attached to it, you're getting this mitochondrial biogenesis. So it's turning on genes that just activate the energy of your body. And now the signaling, because the GLP-1 is in every single system in your body, but that signaling gets amplified for the entire metabolic makeover. It's almost like upgrading your operating system on your phone. A lot of us are stuck in these old operating systems and we wonder why buttons on our computer, buttons on our phone don't work. It's the same thing with peptides. As you start stacking these agonists, you get this amplification of benefits and in certain cases side effects too, which is why this needs to be studied further, and pretty soon we'll know different side effects. And we've actually found that at the higher doses, people get this interesting sensation on their skin. It can raise your heart rate. So once again, work with a medical provider. Only use peptides from licensed compounding pharmacies with 503A licenses, 503B. That's what we use at Ageless Future. We work with some very brilliant pharmacists. But when it comes to retatrutide, once it's out, the big thing you want to focus on is how can I prevent my digestive system from creating this overgrowth of certain bacteria or yeast that you don't want. And so one thing you can do to increase your peristalsis is you can massage down on your stomach. And especially if you have what's called a hiatal hernia, where your stomach starts to intrude, basically ascend through your sphincter at the top of the stomach, those hurt. And so massaging down can help prevent that. The other big thing is adding in some digestive enzymes. So HCl prozyme with betaine hydrochloride, you've got bile salts for the fat emulsification, especially if you don't have a gallbladder, you want to be very careful. Gallbladder issues are very well documented as your digestive system slows down. So this is where adding in bile salts will help you break down the fats. It will keep that bile and that sludge moving through the gallbladder. And then using some of these binders like fulvic and humic acid, even activated charcoal, making sure you're using it away from anything else, can help pull out the toxins, because as your body's losing weight, your body's going to release more toxins. But with retatrutide, what they've discovered is because it's got a weaker pulse on the GLP-1 pathway, almost 8 times weaker than what you'd see in like Ozempic or Mounjaro, about a 4 to 5 times weaker pulse than what you'd see in tirzepatide. The GLP-1 seems to have the most aggravated issues when it comes to the gut and digestion and constipation specifically. The other thing that you want to look at is that GIP compared to tirzepatide, this incretin molecule is about 8 times stronger than tirzepatide, so you're getting much more insulin stability. That's what GIP does, is it helps create this nice pathway for glucose to get into the cell. The cell opens a double door essentially so that glucose can be used as energy. You do not want glucose circulating in your blood, and you want it to be stored and used as energy as quickly as possible. You don't want it to be stored. You want it to be used as energy. If it gets stored, it's usually getting stored in the liver to be used later or into fat cells. And then the glucagon, what glucagon does, this is where it gets really interesting, is glucagon, it activates energy expenditure. So even if your body's just sitting there, you're going to burn more energy than if you didn't have that glucagon. But glucagon regulates blood sugar when we're not eating, which 90+% of the time, it's the glucagon that's regulating your blood sugar more so than like insulin. You just want your pancreas to just secrete some insulin as is needed. But this is why it's so important. If you go through a whole gut test, you want to remove what's interfering. If you've got any kind of bacterial overgrowth like Klebsiella, Citrobacter, clear those out. If you've got, well, especially C. diff, if you've got dysbiosis, where you've got an overexpression of like the Firmicute phylum or the Bacteroides, make sure you regulate that. Use short-chain fatty acids, not probiotics necessarily. The big thing too is if you do have digestive issues at the onset, you may want to work with the functional medicine team to actually help identify where the problems are in the first place. This is where I love working with my team, because I run routine stool tests and then I can understand where the issues are. I found out that I was over-consuming fermented foods, and so I had this overabundance of bacteria that was causing a lot of inflammation and food sensitivities. And so just by cutting back on those things, everything got better. But I would not have known that without a gut test. And then if you have very significant longevity goals, you want to really amplify the benefits of a retatrutide or any of these triple agonists, or this triple agonist, or any of the GLP-1 related peptides, which are available now, the tirzepatide and semaglutide, then this is where it's really important to make sure that your gut is working really well. If you love this video, please share it with your friends, family, loved ones. I appreciate you being part of the community. Go to agelessfuture.com and you can learn more. And then I also provide a link to my next video on what does this retatrutide do compared to tirzepatide. I'm Regan Archibald. See you on the next video.